So there's an Irish tradition on St. Patrick's Day called Drowning the Shamrock. At the end of the evening, you would take a glass of whiskey and you would take a shamrock and place it into your glass and then drink it all the way down. Shamrock and all. And that is said to bring you good luck. So with this in mind, I wanted to create an encounter where the characters are in a strange village in and witness this tradition, a nightly ritual for the townsfolk, and they have to decide on whether or not they're going to participate in this. Now, digging further into Irish folklore, I was able to add some ideas that include legends of fortune-telling brazen heads, snakes, and even St. Patrick himself. So in today's video, I want to push the limits of RPG traps and trap encounters by creating what I call a divine trap. The parameters and consequences of a divine trap are set up in a boon or bane-like fashion by a fiend or a deity. Now, you may recall I explored this idea previously on my channel with a divine trap called the 9 Lives. Now, today's trap encounter is going to have a lot of backstory and a lot of setup that you're going to need to prepare for your encounter. So if you would like to see the written version of this trap, along with NPCs that you could use when running this encounter, this is going to be available to all the members of my Patreon at the $2 level or higher, and I'll put a link in the description below. So today we're going to find out that triggering a trap isn't always what you do, but sometimes it's what you didn't do. Inspired by shamrocks, the Brazen Head, St. Patrick, snakes, and Irish folklore, let's take a look at Drowning the Shamrock. So I think the best location for this divine trap is going to need to be in an unexplored area or an area that is far away that the adventurers are traveling to. I would probably put this small village deep in the woods of a forest or maybe even a remote island. Now, when they do get there, this village is going to seem perfect, almost too perfect. The weather is going to be beautiful, and the NPCs of the village are going to be polite, cheerful, and above all else, healthy. Their small village is littered with a few shops and many bountiful gardens of flowers, trees, fruits, and vegetables, providing a luscious amount of greenery. Now at night, the townsfolk are going to gather at the Brazen Head Pub and Inn for laughter, dancing, and of course, drinking. And in fact, the Brazen Head Inn is going to be the only place that the characters will be able to get a room for the night. Now the walls of the Brazen Head Inn are made of brick and stone, and in the middle of one of these walls is a large brass sculpture of a face. Vines filled with clover and shamrocks are going to engulf the rest of the wall, providing a beautiful green decor. Now every evening, this establishment is going to be rife with dancing, celebration, and song. And there is going to be plenty of food to eat, but only 3 drinks to choose from: whiskey, stout, or coffee. Now, while they're in the village or in the inn, the party can befriend a few of the NPCs by simply being polite and respectful. If the characters ask about the Brazen Head or the shamrocks on the wall of the inn, they're going to be told that it is part of the shrine to their deity Maewyn. Upon Maewyn's name being said, the crowd in the inn are all going to respond by raising their drinks and exclaiming, "Sláinte to Maewyn!" And if asked, Sláinte means cheers. Now the NPCs in the inn are going to provide plenty of information. The players just simply need to have their characters ask around. So if the characters ask about Maewyn, then one of the NPCs that they talk to is going to reveal that Maewyn is the deity of snakes and good health. And in fact, we can even go as far as to have the holy symbol be a staff and a snake. Now the NPCs would probably continue that folklore tells the time that Maewyn drove all of the snakes from their island or wherever it is that you put this village, and as long as we continue to serve, he will continue to provide and protect. So all of the NPCs and all the patrons of the inn are going to fully believe that Maewyn, the deity of snakes and good health, is the one that drives snakes away from their area and is responsible for the good health of not only themselves, but their gardens and their village. Now, any character can make a DC 20 religion check, and if they're successful, they might recall reading about Maewyn in ancient texts. While not much is known about the deity, the information that the NPCs provided seems to be correct. Now, on a roll of 25 or higher on that religion check, then the character will be able to determine that the brass head that is on the wall of the inn is made in the likeness of the god. Of course, they could just ask and get this information from one of the NPCs. Now, characters that want to know a little bit more about the Brazen Head on the wall can make a DC 25 history check, and on a success, then they're going to be able to recall reading about the brass fixture, maybe some tales of lore in some ancient texts or ancient books, and the fact that it could provide insight into the future. And in fact, if a detect magic spell is cast, then the brass head is going to radiate with divination magic. But interestingly enough, all of the shamrocks, the clover, and the vines that surround the brass head are going to radiate abjuration magic. Now, once the discussion begins to flow with the NPCs, they're going to insist that the party join them for the ritual that will take place later that night. If they're asked about it, then they will reveal that the ritual is one that wards off snakes and provides the village with good health for themselves and their gardens. Now, a DC 12 insight check would reveal that any NPC will feel confident that this is a necessary and harmless part of their everyday lives. So it seems that every night at the inn, all of the townsfolk in the village gather and they have a ritual that takes place in front of the wall and the Brazen Head. Now, if any of the characters would ask what would happen if they do not participate, then the NPCs are going to look at them dumbfounded and claim, well, no one has ever refused to take part in our ritual. It is a tradition that must be followed to maintain our good health and ward off the snakes, and they're just going to leave it at that. So now that we have the backstory and everything set up, let's take a look at the trap itself. At the end of the night, the Brazen Head is actually going to speak, and it's going to say, "It is time." Now the music and the dancing is all going to cease, and the patrons are going to go to the bar and fill up their drinks. Now after they top off their drinks, whether that be whiskey, stout, or coffee, they're going to proceed to the wall and they're going to pluck a single shamrock off of the vines and place it in their drinks. After this, they'll stand by with their drinks and wait for everyone else to do the same. Now, if anyone would have retired early to their room in the inn, then an NPC waitress is going to gather some drinks, prepare them with a single floating shamrock, and take them upstairs to the guest's room. Now, minutes later, after the brass statue had spoken, it's going to speak again, and it's going to exclaim, "Sláinte." And in response to this, the patrons of the inn are going to raise their glass and exclaim, "Sláinte." They're then going to consume their beverage, and that's going to include the shamrock. Now, for the characters that participated in the ritual and Drowning the Shamrock, then the deity Maewyn is going to bless them. They're going to get a good night's sleep, and the entire next day, whenever they make a D20 roll, whether that's for a saving throw, an attack, or an ability check, then that character is going to be able to add a D4 to that roll. However, Maewyn is not going to be pleased with anyone that did not participate in Drowning the Shamrock. So those characters that did not partake in the tradition are going to be cursed with bad luck for 24 hours. And the first thing that's going to happen to them is if they see the Brazen Head, or if they're in that vicinity, then they're going to see a snake come out of the mouth of the Brazen Head, and then it's going to get lost in the crowd. Now, this is definitely a foretelling of things that are to come. Later that night, when the characters sleep, they're going to be attacked by a giant pit viper. And the pit viper will have surprise on the character and will make its first attack with advantage. After the surprise attack, we will roll initiative for the giant snake and the character, and at any time during this combat that character is bitten by this giant snake, then they are going to have a curse or bad luck for the next 24 hours. Through the course of the entire next day, anytime they roll a d20 for an ability score check, a saving throw, or an attack roll, they're going to also roll a d4 and subtract that amount from the d20 roll. So the Drowning the Shamrock trap basically comes down to Maewyn giving good luck to those that participate in the tradition and bad luck to those that decide not to partake. Now, I think one more thing that would be fun is those that did drown the shamrock, they could talk to a specific NPC and they may find a small secret about the Brazen Head Inn and Pub. If they performed the ritual of drowning the shamrock, then they could go back to the pub and they could ask a question to the brass head that's on the wall. The character would then need to make a DC 30 religion check, and don't forget to add that extra D4 for good luck. and if they succeed, then the brass head will respond yes or no. So it's going to have to be a yes or no question. So what did you think of this encounter creation exercise along with the idea of a divine trap? Did you like the tie-ins of the fantasy world along with some of the traditions of the real world? And is this something that you would use in your game? And if so, what would you do differently? Be sure to leave a comment below and let me know what you're thinking. Thank you very much for watching. Salancha, and on to the next.